What's up guys, Omid from CodeLab here. Welcome to the first video in our series on React. So throughout this series, we're going to walk you guys through some of the basics of how to create and use some of the more basic features inside of the web development framework called React. And so just a quick note, if you guys do want to follow along with us and you're looking to use our code from GitHub, just a heads up that for this series, the only code that we will be posting is cumulative. So unlike previously where we normally have different folders like a part 1, part 2, part 3 folder that corresponds to each video, instead we just have one folder inside of the React folder that you can see here on our GitHub that is just called My App. And inside of there will be the code that we finish at the end of the 5th video. And that's because every single video will be building off of each other. We're not going to start new from scratch. And that's just because there's a lot of stuff to do inside of a React app, and we just kind of want to make things simple and just go in simple sequential order, since we will be building off of our original work anyways. Now, first let's talk a little bit about what React is. So React is a very, very powerful web development framework that was first engineered several years ago by Facebook. Now, in React, most of the code that we write is JavaScript, and there's a little like disclaimer next to that, a little star, and I'll get back to that in the next video. But most of our code is written in JavaScript instead of just plain HTML and CSS. And there's a lot of magic work that's done underneath the hood that helps make the website faster, makes the code easier and more intuitive to write as you get a little bit more experience with it. And it also makes using external third-party packages much easier for web development. And I'll show you guys how and why in a second. And again, there's also just like a ton of optimizations done underneath the hood so that web pages run super fast. A lot of times when you're making basic HTML, CSS apps, as you get bigger, you kind of have to optimize certain things. With React, personally, I have never had to before. Obviously, if you have like a super professional website maybe, but nothing that we do in CodeLab requires optimization because React does so much of it for you underneath the hood. It's a great system. Now, all that React actually really is another JavaScript package. So you don't actually have to go online and download something like you might have had to have downloaded Node to get JavaScript, or like you have to download like C++ compilers, stuff like that. You don't actually need that. React is just a framework, meaning it's just a library built on top of JavaScript, like some extra code. Obviously, it's a bit more complicated than that. There is a lot of optimizations underneath the hood, but that's the basics of it. Now, how can I create my own React app? So my own web app built using React. That's what React app would stand for. Basically, all that you have to do is open up your command line interface like I have right here, and then navigate to the parent folder that you want to store your React app in. And then we're just going to type npx create-react-app. That's the command that will actually create a React app for you. And then you say the name of the folder that you want to exist in. So I'm inside my React folder here. I'm going to create a new folder inside of my React folder called myapp2, myapp-2, and then once I type that in, a new folder will be created and some stuff will print out in your console saying that that stuff is being created for you automatically. Now this process will take a little bit of time. If you've never created a React app before, it'll have to do some downloads, but if you have, like you'll see here from me, it's done in literally 15 seconds. There's a few more things that it has to install, but it's pretty quick and straightforward. Now, in terms of the main things that I would like to talk about, I kind of want to go over the file structure of a React app first, because it's not like there's just an HTML file and just a CSS file. There's a lot of stuff on top of that. So now, just like how they suggest, what I'm going to actually do now is move into that directory. So myapp-2, I'm just going to cd change directory into there. And now if we open up our file explorer here on the left, there's some stuff that I kind of want to walk you guys through. So there's four sort of like big bundles of stuff here, right? The first is this stuff down here. We got these 4 files right here. And we got like sitting all out on their own in the root directory. Then we got our source, our public, and our node modules folder. So let's start with the easy stuff, node modules. We've seen these before, working with JavaScript. It's just your app's dependencies. Now, one of the big ones in here, if you scroll down all the way, and there's a lot, is called React. Now, there's a lot here, a lot more than you saw when we just downloaded like Math.js back inside of our simple JavaScript videos, because there are a lot of dependencies that React is built on. And that's sort of one of its downsides. It is pretty big. This node module folder right here, it's actually like pretty sizable on your computer's disk. So there's a lot of stuff there that helps to power and make React work. Okay, and that's where all of your dependencies will go. Now, if we skip outside, we'll notice some of this stuff. There's just a .getignore file, simple, a README, your package.json. You'll notice that one was automatically built for you. However, it's much longer than your ones from the JavaScript video because there's extra stuff like what browsers you support, certain like pathing for like development. And the good news is that React's pretty smart about this. You don't have to mess with any of this. It's just done for you. All's good. So you got that, the README, the getignore, and then you got a yarn.lock. This is actually the exact same thing as a package-lock.json. It's just using Yarn. So you guys might remember I very briefly mentioned that there are two ways to download packages using JavaScript, both NPM and Yarn. React recently switched to using Yarn as their default, but regardless of which one you use, if just look for either a yarn.lock or a package-lock.json. It just means that you're prefixing all of your install commands with either NPM or Yarn. But they both will function pretty much identically in terms of making your project ultimately work. You'll notice the syntax here is different. It's not like a big JSON file. Still works just the same though. Now, where's the actual meat? So we go inside of this public folder here. You won't be working in here too much, but this actually serves as the base of your React app. Although again, you will rarely ever work in here. And this is primarily for your app's metadata and its topmost level imports. So what I mean by that is this index.html file. This is really where things exist. You'll notice this looks like plain HTML. Like there's no JavaScript here. This looks like something that you should be familiar with. There's some weird linking and like some weird metadata, but essentially you've created, or sorry, React has created for you this 43, 44 line long HTML file that serves as the basis of everything. And it imports all of like these images and these icons for like your tab in your browser, just like some metadata to like make your page like searchable for, like some robot stuff to make your page searchable for, just some basic stuff like that. But all that you need to know is index.html. And then the other thing that you need to know is this div right here called root. So this doesn't make a ton of sense now, but it will in a future video where we talk about basically this div is where your entire React app goes. So this div right here that looks empty, you would say, hey, this is like what's going to load on this page? Like there's no real content here. But this div is where everything will actually be replaced. So the entire React app that I'm going to show you how to code in these future videos, it will replace line 31. It knows to target and replace the div with an ID of a root. Now, the actual meat of where we will be spending all of our time coding, like 99% of that time, will be this source folder, SRC, short for source. So inside of here, I got a few different files going on, and the main two that we care about are index.js and app.js. Now, you'll notice we have some CSS files, obviously for styling. We have this .test.js, don't need to worry about that. We have a logo just to have an image displayed on the website, don't need to worry about that. We have these two setup files. These are just default ones for doing like some extra configuration. Normally we actually delete these in an application, so don't need to worry about those. All that we need to know or care and worry about is index.js and app.js, okay? Now, in terms of like how deep we're gonna go, we're not going to discuss like the main syntax here, but this is the general idea of where, of how to create a React app and the general file structure. So this source folder does contain the index and the app.js that we mainly need. However, one more thing that I would like to show is if I type npm start. So if you type npm start right here, some stuff's going to spit out into your console a little bit, and then you will see something that says that your development server has been started. So if I pull my browser back over here, you'll notice I actually have a working web page. So a few quick things to note. You could have typed npm start or yarn start, both the same. Again, npm yarn, same thing basically, just slightly different syntax in some of its commands. But the start keyword is what starts your React app. So right here I have my page, and this is actually the code that is dictated in index.js and app.js. So this code, it came predetermined with React. Don't need to worry about what it does, but just know that they made this web page with this nice little spinning animation of this image. Now, in case you're wondering how this is even possible, up here in your URL, you should see something that says localhost :3000. A localhost is essentially where a browser or like a page can be simulated running locally from your computer. So instead of having to host this website just to test it, you can just see it here, because unfortunately there's not just one HTML file that you can just double click on and that will open. Something else that's really cool that I do want to show you is that normally with HTML files you have to refresh the page every time that you make a change. But React has an interesting feature called hot reloading. So whenever you make a single change in your code, so long as you change the file, so long as you save the file, your page will automatically reload. So if I come inside of here, no need to worry about what any of this says. If I just say, if I just delete this word edit and I save, you'll notice my command line actually refreshed so that now it will again say compiled successfully. You'll notice it says it twice because I just did it again. And now that it compiled again, the word edit is gone. I did not refresh. I just opened up my browser and I saw that it changed, because every single time that you save a file in React, it will automatically recompile the whole thing because the compilation process is so quick. But anyways, that is it for our first video on React. Hopefully you all found this pretty useful, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.